Hi, I'm Daniel Levinson, this is Rapier Wit, and welcome to Rapier Wit Witticisms. Hello, today it's Black Powder Day. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because it was inspired by two of my very dear friends. The first, Simon Fon, because Simon, when he watched me do the Banana video, and for those who might not have seen it, you can see it on my YouTube channel or on my Facebook page or other places I've been posting it. And I fired this huge musket. And what Simon specifically asked for is, would I fire the Blunderbuss? Which brings me to my other dear friend, Chris Warriow of Fantastic Creations. So Chris very kindly loaned me the Blunderbuss and some of the other props on the table. If you're looking for really excellent armor, swords, because he builds them on spec, and pretty much any kind of hero prop or really oddball kind of thing, Chris is the person to go to. I always say he has everything from the Stone Age to the Space Age. So with that in mind, and I guess there's nothing more to say, but let's talk about these Black Power firearms. If we look at what I have on the table here, I really only have two different flavors. So I don't have any wheel locks, which are really amazing. I just don't have any on me. And I don't have any match locks, which means a fire lock or a firearm that used a burning match that ignited the black powder. Both of those are really interesting historical firearms. One of them is far more expensive. The wheel lock is really mechanically challenging to build, and there's not a lot of them to be found. At least I haven't found that to be the case, or at least within a price range that I would be willing to pay. And the match locks, again, are a different type of challenge where you have this burning match and really combustible black powder all sort of juggled together. And so I would rather not do that myself. Some of the things I want to talk about today are specific for theater. And the reason why I'm saying that is that you probably have more flexibility in film because of financial backing. You can do different technology, meaning not deal with black powder at all and use other FX. And mind you, you can do that in theater too. But if you have an actual antique, like some of these on the table, or a recently manufactured reproduction of an antique, I'm just going to talk about, I am just going to talk about things I found really useful and have proven successful in shows I've used black powder in. So the first thing about black powder that's really interesting is that it creates this really great smoky powder, smoky smoke when fired. And so the audience has both the smell and they can see it. It's pretty exciting when it happens. The other thing about it is that by their nature, because they're not fired, and I'm talking about what I have on my table versus cap and ball pistols, they're not fired as efficiently as some more modern firearms, right, that use cartridges. That means that you might not always have them go bang, right? So like all things, when we're doing practical effects on stage, it's a good idea to have a backup plan. One of them is to have a stage manager or assistant stage manager or a tech member with a starter's pistol or other firearm that can go bang if you really need that sound, or an emergency backup sound effect, and rehearse in the show during one run or more exactly what will happen if something goes wrong. So this sounds a bit perhaps obsessive. However, the only thing I can promise about human endeavor is we will make mistakes. And I think it's an excellent idea, just as we approach all of our stage combat when we're doing violence, to have ideas ready and trained into the body, ready to go when things go wrong, okay? So let's talk about flint. Now, this has a flint that's artificially made, right? And this flint is actually a natural flint. And how that really works is that as we pull back to half cock, right? Oh, sorry, all cock. And this is made out of steel. Now, if I push this down, when I pull the trigger, and I think safety first, so let's do this. This is not loaded with black powder yet. We're just going to see, does it in fact even spark? Let's take a look at that. Did you see the sparks? Great. Now, yes, some landed on this table, but I'm looking, make sure they didn't ignite anything. And it's always a good idea to have not a combustible surface when you're doing things like this. But anyway, there we go. So that gives you an idea that the sparks are forced down and there's a little tiny hole, and you put very fine powder, so that's what this is, very, very fine black powder into the chamber. And of course, I can remember any word now. Anyway, into the chamber, and it gets forced down the little hole into the actual chamber where you would put your ammunition and this powder. Now, I'm going to be upfront and say I don't, of course, ever put an actual shot down, like a musket ball or anything down my barrel. And I actually don't use wads either when I'm doing theater. I would caution you, because the idea is this wad might be ignited, it's moving through air, and you don't want this potentially flaming object going through space. And so I depend on the powder being held back near the base of the gun, and that's when I'm talking about, hopefully, fingers crossed, this working. Which brings me to another type of percussion, which is basically this or that. And these actually use percussion caps. Now, they're a lot more efficient and a lot more likely to be successful to fire when you pull the trigger. And let's say your black powder doesn't ignite, at least you'll still get a crack, right? And it's not ideal, but it's closer to the success we're aiming for if we don't have ignition. So I'm going to put on my hearing protection, and you know what? If I can't go forward in safety, then how can I expect anyone else to? So goggles and this. We all know that if I'm performing on stage, it's very unlikely I'll have goggles, but I can have hearing protection. I just want to make sure that it's perhaps not as overt as what I'm wearing right now. So I'm going to take out this very, very small cap, and this is, I'm just going to show you the top of this, not to show a specific product, but it's a number 11, okay? And these are very, very tiny. Here are the little caps, and there's the top to give you an idea to see what it looks like. This is what it looks like before firing, right? Literally just a little cap. And after it fires, it really gets smashed up. See that? So let's see. This is that number 11 cap. Let's see how this one works. Put it on it, and let's fire it. Gives you an idea of the quality of just the cap. So if you're in a very small theater, this might actually be all you need. Just the cap. When possible, I really like to use this much larger top hat style. And again, I'll show this closer in a moment, because it gives you much more of a bang. This is usually used for military firearms and larger muskets. And let's hear this one. So it's a deeper sound. It's not hugely louder, but I just feel that people seem to like it better if you're only going to make the single sound, right? Let's do just one more so you can get a hear of it. And it's also a lot easier to manipulate than these tiny ones. So right now, it's down, which is really not what you should be doing when you have loaded it with black powder, when you've loaded the prop with black powder. But right now, if I had to give this to an actor, rather than them fumbling with just the cap, this might be the way to go. So to have them on stage, do two of the cocks back to. Okay? And you can see, again, it gets smashed up. And these are the larger ones that I was talking about. Again, come in different brands, but this just you have an idea of what to look for. And you can see how much larger, how much larger they are, easier to manipulate. They're more like an acorn, but I find they're ironically easier to grip. And this gives you an idea of what it looks like after you fired it. So let's just put them in my palm so you can see them side by side. Unfired and smashed up. So, I put powder in, I've cocked back. Let's see if we're lucky, all right? smell are bad eggs. Flintlock pistol. Let's see how this one goes. Wow, I'm really having a very lucky day. This is fantastic. So, yeah, that would work very well in a dueling scene, don't you think? Okay, now to check out this little guy with a very, very small percussion cap. Again, let's see if it goes off. Pretty impressive. It's ridiculously fun. What we do, crazy fun. So this is that French pistol with a much a larger percussion cap. Ready? Almost like a old-timey camera. But it works lovely, and this has been used in a few shows, and I found it to be very, very useful, even with just the percussion cap. Hi, okay. So here's a long gun. Right? This is a type of birding musket, hunting musket. Anyway, it's lovely, and let's see how this one works. So we had ignition, but not the powder going. Okay, we'll have to try that again. Second time, we'll see if it's the second time's the charm. Nice. So yeah, there you go. As an experiment, I was pretty much using the same powders and powders in pretty much all the ones I fired. The Blunderbuss got a little more, but the other ones I kept the same so that you could get a sense of a different outcome from the same tools or the same amounts, and I thought that was an interesting experiment.